So I guess I'm a hangover acting chairman. So I'll call a meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock, I think. And the first item on the agenda is to elect a new chairman. Let's see. So just to recap, I was asked to chair the last meeting after John's retirement. And we were also asked to vote to make nominations and vote tonight as opposed to between the meetings. So in the interim, what we received was a nomination by Al of himself as chairman and James as co-chairman. Christina then pointed out that that would be somewhat cumbersome and wouldn't work well because of the trying to figure out the how you would split the duties and obligations of the two chairmen. So that was tossed out, and after that,
just a note, Bill. We've tried that with other committees, and it doesn't seem to be working as well as it should. That's really why we decided that that's not really the best. It's just not working with the co-chair. It's better when one person is in charge, and if you have an assistant with that person, either the person is not there, the vice president, so to speak, steps forward and comes.
Well, then I amend that nomination to nominate Al as the chairman, and if the committee agrees, I would be the vice chairman.
Okay, that was my next point because we got that email from you. So you would be, so James nominating Al as chairman. We have a second for that nomination?
I was gonna nominate Bill if you would consider it. I know the last email that I saw, I had a problem with emails. I don't know whether your mind had changed at all, but I would nominate you as chairman. I know an email said that you didn't want to pursue that, but I didn't know whether your mind had changed or.
Okay, well, right now we've got the nomination of Al up. And we have a second for you. I think you can second his nomination.
If I can, then I'll second it. Yeah.
And we have a nomination for James as vice or deputy chair, we'll call it. A second for that nomination. You could do his own chairman. I guess you can do your own.
Okay, this is going downhill fast.
And Tom, a nomination of me for chair.
I don't know whether that's appropriate because I hadn't spoken to you.
Well, you can make the nomination. It's appropriate.
It's on the table.
Okay. Do we have a second for?
Second.
So a second for me. So we've, and all right, given that, then I would nominate Matt as deputy chair. Do we have a second for that?
I would second that. If that's agree, I don't want to put somebody on the spot by saying, hey, go ahead, you know. Because I know I don't want to be that guy.
I'll be happy to second Matt.
All right. Any other nominations? John, you want to step back in?
Tiebreaker.
There is an open chair.
Maybe have a write-in, maybe Peter Reich or Paul Shepard wants to write in, no?
You know, another option is you could just defer to the town council. It's an option.
The town board?
The town board, I mean, yeah. They might not want to make any more decisions, but it's an option.
Well, so we've got in front of us now, we've got a nomination for Al for chairman, for me for chairman, nomination for James for deputy chairman, and a nomination for Matt for deputy chairman. So we'll vote. James, you want to vote for, vote is for chairman, for Al, or for me?
Well, I might consider you know, this seems to be a divisive process. I would opt for a town board perhaps.
Oh. Maybe divisive enough. Because we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would, you know, like you guys, you know, rather than, you know, having this, it's a
Yeah, I
small
think
group of people to be.
As a point of clarity and procedure, in the document that enumerates the role of the WMAC, the chairman is appointed by the town board, not.
I'm along with that.
Yeah, but typically,
Just pointed out, that's all.
And that's a recommendation to the town board, but if you wanna say,
Pointed out.
That would be my recommendation, just given what I'm hearing.
Well, the document also says that you can defer to the town board,
Right.
town council.
so if somebody would shoot an email to the town board saying those who are willing to serve and in what positions, would make it easier.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that would definitely make it easier.
Yeah.
But I think the overriding thing that I don't wanna see happen, I don't wanna see any, you know, hard feelings or anything.
Right, so that's why I'm just saying, I think it would be better to let somebody else do it.
I'd rather not see the hard feelings. And by the way, when we go back again, by the chair, would they, of the three colleagues, you would entertain a co-chair? Now, I think that would be open for debate. And the other thing that would be open for debate is, do we go with Bill for November, December, and then have the new administration come in and you know, make this decision? So there's a bunch of things on the table that could be considered by the town board. So
I think we're in agreement that the code, you know, I think Christina's points and whatnot are pretty
Right.
good, and you guys feel that, you know.
Yeah.
So have a chair and a vice chair, I think it's fine
Yeah.
with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
as long as they're not co-chairs, I agree with that.
Right.
One person is the chair and the other person just fills in. Chair is not present.
Yeah, my understanding was that we should run it through an election process, and if, so your suggestion is that we just, I don't think, do we have to send an email to say that we?
No, I have the notes right here if you want, I mean, to put them in the notes, you know.
Excuse me, who's ever talking from the back of the room, I can't really hear them well. They're not on a microphone.
Okay, you know.
I don't even know who it is.
It was Jim.
It was Jim.
Yeah,
Jim,
it's Jim.
and basically just confirming that what we're gonna do is, the liaisons will submit to the town board that there are two parties willing to act as chairman, Al and myself, and two parties willing to act as deputy chairman, James and Matt. And then the town board will make the decision. And they'll also determine the term, whether it's for the next 2 months or a year. My understanding was it's typically a year for the chairman, but I guess we'll wait and see what the town board says. What?
Or 20.
Or 20.
And in their infinite wisdom, they could also decide that one of you could be chair and one of you could be vice chair. We would be the Indians still.
All right, so moving on, we've got the minutes. Any changes or comments on the minutes? Are they good as they are? Yes, no?
Yeah, we're good.
It seems fine to me.
Good with
Okay, looks like the minutes been accepted. Next meeting is December 4th. Do we want to do it at 5 o'clock?
Sure.
Yes.
Fine, yeah.
Other correspondence, I just got an email, I guess we all got it.
I did not. Correspondence, is it a long one?
Rob Herman, this is regarding Fewer. Remember Fewer, we had that application came in, it's a pretty messy application, came in, I think in December.
That was the dock that was already built.
The dock has already been built.
Oh, that's the one in, up, in that.
Hedges Road?
In the creek.
Yeah, Hedges Road, yep.
So basically, this correspondence doesn't appear to put anything on our plate. He's asking for the town board and the planning board to make various decisions regarding the fact that the process has been changed and he understands that they has to get a town wetlands permit. So we were just copied on this at this point. I don't think there's anything we need to do. Just be aware of it and see if it comes back to us. He does refer to recommendations already made by the WMAC. I dug out some notes I have on it, but Christine, if you could, I didn't have time to look up the minutes. If you could look up the minutes from that meeting and just let us, and kind of send that around to us so we know what our recommendations were for fewer.
Well, I thought it was a removal, wasn't it?
A number of them. I mean, one of them.
That's why I figured it'd be easier to do. I have my notes and I could go over those, but if we get it, hopefully it's all in the minutes and we can just go by that. Let's see what else we got. So briefing by town board liaisons. Guys have anything to add?
We have put on your website the presentation. We had a meeting here on October 18th that several of you were at. Had to do with coastal resilience, a nature-based solution. And Pat was here, Joyce Novak and Jay Glenlow. And Kathy Phelan was here from New York State, a Sea Grant Committee. Obviously, they're getting away from the hard shoreline concept, and they're really pushing home the idea of coastal resiliency, utilization of a thing called CLAPS, CLPS, which stands for Critical Land Protection Strategy. They also talk about shoreline adaptation initiatives and resilient communities preparing for climate change. I mean, that's basically goal 2 in the CCMP, which is the Comprehensive Conservation Management Plan that guides PEP. Goal 2 is that resilient communities prepare for climate change. Climate change is real. All the predictions they made back in 2000 to 2003 or 2020 to 25 are coming into fruition. They're now making these projections out to 2050, 2080, and 2100. They have all of this stuff on their website, the PEP website, but on your website, you have that presentation. It's a 22-page presentation that I made here to the town board last week. And, it is all about taking a more holistic approach to shorelines in terms of restoring, improving, maintaining, and protecting shorelines. So this is a goal of PEP. It is also a goal of the state. We are one of the major estuaries. That is why the New York Sea Grant people were here. And Kathleen was representing them, saying that this is something that monies are going to be available. There's going to be grant monies available for these kinds of purposes. I think in the future, what we're going to have to see happen is making, and people like yourself, Tom, would be invaluable because you spend so much time on the water. Obviously, I think if you read Newsday, maybe a week or two ago, the Army Corps of Engineers has announced that Mother Nature is winning the battle. That in places like on the South Shore, what's the long community there with?
Where the thing closed up again, you mean?
No, the community that.
Fire Island?
Fire Island, yes. That all of the monies they've spent there and all the resources they've put in there and the moving of millions of tons of sand, you can't keep up with it. We see that at Real Point. We see that in a matter of the end of January, you walk out there, it looks great. February comes down a little bit, March, April, and by the time you get to end of December, right now, if you go out there, if you take pictures and you compare these pictures with the pictures I took in the end of January, they are noticeably different. And it happens every year. So basically, you're spending taxpayer money at $100,000. So what they're trying to do is, what can we do with places like that on our shores? Thank God we got a place like Mashonack that occupies so much shoreline. It can afford to have a little bit of erosion, but we should be studying very carefully. And one thing we have to be careful of is our wetlands. Everything is, and this is something for town board for us to understand, CAC to understand, planning board to understand, that the 75 to 100 foot now in 2023 may not be the 75 to 100 in 2050. So whatever you approve now, whether it's a dock or a bulkhead or a house to be built, those wetlands want to move inland. They need room to migrate. And are we giving them sufficient room to migrate? So that's really, towns like Montauk are going out and saying, rather than try to fight Mother Nature, it would be cheaper for us to take your hotel, move it up to high ground. Seriously, I mean, what's a hotel worth? 10 million, 15, 20 million dollars? You can sustain that for another century up on this hill. But on the beach, it's just a question of shoveling it against the tide, and Mother Nature is Mother Nature. And we're finding out that all the predictions are becoming true, whether it's water temperature, CO2 levels, oxygen levels, all of the things are coming true. So climate change is
A lot
here.
faster.
So what they're trying to get the chief committees, and that's will be the charge of the new town board, is to, what can we do to make our shorelines more resilient? And how can we protect our island going forward? So that's, again, I think if you go through it, you can spend a half hour going through those 22 pages, or 20 minutes maybe, of reading through the notes that I made. And if you want for anything to be called upon in the December meeting, I'd be happy to come back and address any of those things with you. But it's not just WMAC. It's all the other committees that deal with environmental issues here on the island. But that's
Takeaway I heard from that was to get the DEC sort of more as a partner
all right.
instead of a.
Yeah, right.
So James is 100% correct. So we had a nice, and I forgot who brought it all up, I have it in the notes. But one of the most frustrating things is New York DEC seems to be understaffed and not responsive in time to deal with all the things that are going on. Like, and how long are we gonna wait for Condon Dock to be on? I mean, so if we have to make a modification in the plan, they send it back to you saying, of all these things, there's one little thing we want to change. You change it, you send it back, it goes to the bottom of the pile.
Then you
Why?
start over again.
Why? I mean, why do you start over again? It's ridiculous. That should not sit there for 2 or 3 years. You look foolish. And I look foolish going down there and talking to shellfishermen saying, no, we're going to take care of it this spring. Oh, no, this fall. Oh, no, next spring. And come on. I mean, it's not that big a deal here, folks.
It's
not getting any
important. It's
better.
a couple hours, it's a good 4 hours out of the day. You can't use that pack dock.
Correct. And it's
And I know
only
that
getting
you
worse.
guys are aware of it, yeah.
It's only getting worse. And I feel the frustration that you, not to the degree, because I don't deal with it every day. You guys deal with it every day.
Yeah.
So
The longer it
DEC, to me, you've got to, and we talked about strengthening, Joyce brought this up, Novak, about strengthening the ties between the 5 East End towns and the New York State DEC. And we do have to strengthen the ties. They have to, I think, they're shorthanded, or whatever the problem is. Somebody needs to do an internal review of why things are not happening in a timely fashion, because it's leading to frustration. It's leading to a lot of agita with trying to get anything done.
Well, it's counterproductive to what the goal of this coastal resilience thing is. They're approving things that are counter.
It's interesting to hear from a Bayman's point of view that the town is having issues with the red tape and lack of people and all that, because from a commercial fisherman perspective, we have problems with our landings being reported and found and lost, and because we have to report everything. And I get emails all the time, hey, where is this stuff? It's like, well, this stuff is automatically sent, so I don't know what's going on up there. And just the landing reports, they're so far behind in actually logging our reports And so we see that from this side as well as the town sees it from that side. So it's a broad thing across the DEC. It's not just that.
Yeah, it's challenging, but one of the takeaways I got was it seems like it would be a good idea for the community preservation funds to be maybe
Correct.
buying more properties that
Yeah.
are not hardened.
Yes, so I just gave my grandson a tour, and we went by, I took him down to Dickerson, and then we went around the turn there going south, by your house, James, and then going further east. And said, here's lands that we're looking to really purchase. Why, Grandpa? Well, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
So, well, you can't build on it. We're not looking to build on it. We're looking just to own
nobody
it,
else
to be
build
able
on
to
it.
manage it.
Preserve it.
And to preserve it.
And give a place for the water to go. So.
All right, thanks, Jim. Bo, got anything for us?
Just a couple of quick things for you. Nearing the end of the year, I will ask again, as I have in the past, try to put together a year-end summary, if you will, of what we had going on this summer from the police side of things. So if you guys have any, specific requests for things or references or reports or anything like that, let me know. I'd like to try to get that put together for you for the December, maybe January meeting. Last year, I think we had to kick it to February because we missed the meeting. But anyway, long story short, I'll put that together, generally using the previous template. And if there's anything specific, just let me know. The great mooring issue of November 6th, today, has been resolved. Anybody got that email? All right, okay, Al?
No, I didn't get
What-
that. Okay.
There was a,
I got the one about the submerged
yes,
thing.
yes,
Oh,
that specifically, it's been resolved.
It's been resolved,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
okay, that's
It's been
good.
removed. There was a derelict mooring that was almost caused near tragedy this morning to a unwitting
Paddle, to a paddle.
And,
Where is that located, though?
in West End Creek.
West End.
Okay, great.
And so that has successfully been located and removed. We've neutralized that threat.
Okay,
So
that's
We're
good.
not worried. And that was a submerged.
With prejudice or without?
Like shooting down those Chinese balloons.
That's it. We're on it, guys. So we strive to be a responsive agency to your concerns, so please continue.
That came from somebody in the public.
Get to our community's concerns.
Right.
The constabulary, or whatever you want to call it, everything to do with moving the floats that were up along Shell Beach.
Yes,
The same,
And now there's a couple more, now they migrated,
by direction, yes.
they migrated to a different spot.
Yeah, so we have been in contact with the individual who has claimed that they put them there. It was,
are these the same two that I asked you about?
that's what he's referring to, right, which
They were
we-
gone, they were moved.
Right, we got them moved and then some other ones appeared, so we're kind of moving.
But the same
them
ones,
along.
because the same boat is on top of them.
Yeah, I honestly, I haven't been out there in about 10 days now at this point, but,
Yeah, the-
no,
Way out.
yeah. So nonetheless, we're working with that individual to, better align their understanding of the changes to the town code, which were in 2020, I believe now, right, when the town code was amended to require floats to remain proximate to their permitted location and within the permitted or lawful confines of the property. So it doesn't have to stay specifically in its permitted location, but it has to stay within a place that you would be allowed to have a float on your property. So we're working on that. There's, I would say, several, Tom, you've pointed them out before, right? It's part of that same legislation change require people to not put them up on the shoreline.
Yeah, I remember.
And so when I was out, like I said, I was probably out about 10 days ago now, I noted a few already that had been moved up onto the shoreline, as they have been. Some of these people have been doing it for 40 years. I reached out to Reed Karen because the building department is technically the dock enforcement side of things, so there's kind of a little blending there. The idea is that we're gonna try to take a ride out or I'm going to just take a ride and make a list and then hand it off to him and he's gonna hand it off to code enforcement, like there's a whole, whatever. Long story short is we're probably just gonna call people and say, hey, you're not supposed to do that, and try and get them to move. Much like we did with the floats that we were just talking about, so.
I noted that over the last year, something was done and there was a lot of them that weren't like that anymore.
Yeah,
That's one of
we're
those big-
picking them
big
off,
change.
you know,
Yeah,
sometimes
you
people
are. I
don't
see
do
that,
it,
yeah.
right, sometimes, it depends, you know, it's one of those things that actually came back to bite us a little bit last year. Cause we had a bunch of people who then were like, oh, well, I'm not gonna move my float, I'll just leave it there, there's no point in having anybody come and look at it or unhook it.
Oh, so they didn't maintain it.
They didn't maintain it, then the chains were breaking and we were chasing floats up and down West Neck Creek this spring, so there's right, yeah, there was like 4 in a row that all broke off and so we're trying to stay on top of all of the little things that then come up after the first thing, right, so, but anyway, if you guys see something specifically, just let us know, you know, just fire us a email, phone call, whatever. I do ask that you try to follow some official channels, right? So either an email to us is great, or a call to the police department. Obviously, most of you have my cell phone number and you'll text me. I'm on vacation right now for 10 days, so I try not to pay attention to my phone when I'm not working. The best way is if we have a call, a complaint or concern that goes into headquarters, then it immediately gets documented and immediately gets somebody assigned to pay attention to it. Whether or not it gets resolved that minute or not remains to be seen, but that is the best possible way to do things in there, and then it'll appropriately get disseminated from there.
Well, since we have 2 new members of the committee that might not have been here necessarily for last year, but the first thing you talked about is seeking feedback from the WMAC, specifically on what kinds of things. Could you give a couple examples of what you're?
Yeah, so like in the past, we've in the report, like we reference call volume year to year to year. We reference like the top call types, the top violations that we're stopping people for. Billy, I know, you've asked about MSD inspections before. So I'm gonna try to be fairly encompassing to start with, but occasionally somebody has in their brain, well, I'd like to know specifically in the month of July, how many tickets you wrote for undersized fish. I don't know, you know, like just pick some occasionally people want very, very, very focused data. And so I'm happy to provide that, but I'm not a mind reader. And obviously, we're not gonna go into the minutia of however many hundreds of calls there are unless there's some specific request to do so.
I think the MSD inspections would be towards the top of the list.
Yeah, we have that, right, yep. And then, to that end, obviously, we know we got the sanctions lifted, right? So the temporary closures, right, all gone, that's great.
Are they gone just because of the season, or is that?
No, we got them, they are gone.
That's very, very nice.
That's great, that's great. Yeah, so I should, let me clarify, right, the restrictions, the new components of the restrictions that were imposed in the anchorage areas specifically, right, so Cockles Harbor and that whole, like, you know, Taylor's Island to Sunjik Point, right?
Get that one there.
And then West Neck, basically from Shell Beach around to Bay Shore to Wheeler Road.
Yep.
All of that, we got removed.
You did, okay.
Completely taken out, it expired at the end of October, and then in the final rule that they rewrote after our conversations and discussions, they completely removed that.
They completely removed
The
it.
third component that they had implemented to begin with, like back in May, was an expansion of the closed area.
That
John, if I'm
area.
speaking wrong, but there was an expansion of the area around the Cockles Harbor Marina and Buttermill Field, right, Buttermill Island, exactly. That did not get removed.
That
To be fair, we as the town did not spend any time pursuing that removal, mostly just as a oversight on our part. I know Cockles Harbor Marina, because I did get a copy of it, both from Cockles Harbor Marina and actually back from the DEC. Did file an objection appropriately. It was documented.
I saw that, yes.
Right, so they know that there's an objection to it. I don't know whether or not they're ever going to look at it, but nonetheless, that expansion was sustained, and then the rest
The two were lifted.
completely lifted. That's what.
Is there a contingency to that lifting? In other words, do we have to continue with our testing, keep it lifted, or is it just lifted? Like, it's like the old
Just
days?
gone.
Now, so what happened was, in sum and substance, right, they closed it because they thought there's a possibility there might one day be an issue, maybe somewhere, perhaps. And we said, wait a minute, you guys task us with monitoring this stuff. We're doing these things. And they said, well, we didn't really know you were doing that because nobody ever asked. We don't volunteer things and we don't know people are looking for them. So long and short, we codified a simple one-page, just NDC enforcement plan that we now have, which just says we're going to randomly do enforcement, we're going to schedule enforcement, and we're going to respond to complaints needing enforcement. And we will share any of that information with DEC when they request it, freely. And they said, awesome, thanks guys, we'll lift that now. That was the end of that, quite literally. So the DEC is short-staffed in every division of the entire department across the state, as we've already discussed. They were exceptionally receptive working with us on this whole thing. They want to have a more open dialogue on this sort of stuff moving forward. So if there's other areas that they start to eyeball, and quite frankly, they want to use what we have done with other areas outside of the town of Shelter Island to try to use that as a model for keeping things open in those areas. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. I have submitted a request to have Deering Harbor open again as part of the conditional program. All of my requests to convert that from a conditional program to a seasonal closure have gone nowhere, but I'm not giving up that fight. It's the last thing I do before I retire in 20 years.
Thank you for that.
It's self-serving. It's an exceptionally onerous process to have that open from January, February, March, and April.
And it used to open in November, I believe.
Right, and all I can get now is January. That's the best that they are willing to do. But that requires 7-day-a-week monitoring on my part for that entire period of time. But we're doing it. At least tentatively, it's going to be sometime in early January, depending on the paperwork, through the end of April again. Like I said, I've submitted that request, and now we're in the process of working with our partners up at DEC, and they draft this whole 28-page thing that we just signed.
So you said January something to what?
Ideally, it'll be January 1st
To,
it's technically January 2nd because they won't let us do it on a holiday, to April 30th.
oh, okay.
And that 7-day-a-week monitoring, what exactly does that involve? That means you're hanging out?
No, it's rainfall monitoring and daily reporting. So it's both those things. It's 7 days a week, so it sounds onerous. But it's really like 10 minutes worth of my time, 7 days a week. So it's not the end of the world. Every single day, I need to record what the rainfall is, report that rainfall to the DEC by email, and then open or close the shellfish hotline every day. Or else it's closed. It cannot be opened otherwise. That's their conditions. I've really been trying to, and that, I'll send you the whole thing if you'd like to read it. But we have to be in communication with direct communication with the Heights sewer treatment plant, which also has to monitor their facilities 7 days a week. So then we communicate with them. They communicate with us, we communicate with DEC, I communicate with the general public via the hotline, and then it can be open or closed.
And what are you using as your source for rainfall data?
So we collect the rainfall data. We specifically have,
So you collect the rainfall? You got
we have a graduated cylinder that they provide. And then I also have, in addition to that, I have a electronic version, which I've gotten approved from them as well. So that way we have a dual, if one.
okay, yeah, breaks down or whatever.
Right,
You got that.
knock mine over one night, like.
So it's not, so it's stuff that you're doing as opposed to collecting from, you're getting a
No,
report from
this
some
is-
other place, so yeah.
this
got it.
is our
Strong
data.
collection, okay.
But we pull that every single day.
Okay.
For that period.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Bo, back to your end report, can you, if there's any seaplane activities, really, if you noticed anything, I mean, I know you're not monitoring it, but just if anything changed this year to your knowledge?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was a
Somebody
drop in
brought,
the bucket compared to what it has
it
been.
has been, right, and somebody brought up that they thought that a helicopter took off from a boat anchored.
Yeah, there was a helicopter,
Anchored.
yeah, Alcocar's Bay, yeah.
Maybe that could be mentioned.
It's out of our jurisdiction. So,
Yeah.
Well, I'm feeling like Cockles Harbors and Williamfield is board as part of this conversation you've been
Right.
having. I'm feeling like the lone stepchild. I don't see that situation as any different from the other areas.
Right.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, no, it was,
Letting you know.
it was definitely
I
overlooked on
responded
our
during the
part.
comment period,
Yep.
gave reasons why our situation is the same or better than the other areas.
And so when the DEC, I can send you the email that I sent back to them, DEC sent me your submission and asked for comment about it, right? Which was already after it already closed, of course. And asked for clarity on the enforcement plan, the DEC enforcement plan. Specifically saying, is that mooring field included in the enforcement plan? Which unequivocally, the answer is yes, right? The plan itself specifically enumerates particular attention given to designated mooring fields and designated anchorages. Well, that's a designated mooring field. Very, very clearly, that's what that is. We have that, so, and I was very clear to Matt about that there was absolutely, we did not call out any particular commercial entity, obviously, but we're wholly covering them in that plan, without a doubt. So he never responded to me after. I'll send you that email when I have it.
But that still leaves me out.
Right, it's all after the fact. It is all after the fact. And again, we, meaning the town, Joe, me, and Stephen, the town attorney, it just never, it literally never was part of the conversation. I don't have a good answer for why, other than it was overlooked.
Tom said that it wasn't an issue as far as the paving goes. For me, it's an issue.
Oh, no, it is, it's a major issue.
Right.
That's a major issue.
Mooring field?
No, not your mooring field, their closure.
Right, the expansion there is.
No, your mooring field was fine. It was their closure.
It gives the public the impression the water is polluted, and that's not the
That's
case.
not the case at all.
Right.
No, not the
Which
case
I
at all.
also mentioned in my reply to them, so.
That's all I have to say.
And we're continuing to sample the 3 areas with Blue Water Task Force. As planned, that went from every Monday to every other Monday for the off-season. It may even drop down again to once a month, I'm not 100% sure. I know I only have to collect 3 more times this year. But we're continuing to do that, we're continuing to see the results posted, so,
Where are the results posted?
on the Blue Water Task Force site, I sent out a link to everybody earlier on, I can send another link out.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, yep, no problem.
You mentioned the notification procedures. Wondering, just refresh, remind, the one at the town hall when you call in gets bounced back and forth. I don't know whether that was addressed or not.
It doesn't anymore because the town updated the phone system last year.
okay.
And so that number, that 0400
That's a
number
designated
is
thing.
now, doesn't go anywhere else. So if you call that number, you hear my lovely voice greeting you, whether you want to or not.
That's good.
And there's no option beyond that, like it's, you just hear it when I have to say.
Decision, there it is. Okay, great.
I will confirm that that's still the case, now 8 months after the fact. But that's how it was structured this past fall.
Is this something where maybe, I don't even know whether it's prudent to do it, but we got Channel 22 that broadcasts stuff. Is that something that would be thrown in that, this is opening this month? I don't know whether, is that something that should be
There's
considered?
no like news
You
feed
know,
on that. I mean, it's more of a reporting of.
because it's just been closed so
What,
often, it's just
Right.
not open.
I know what we did last year, at least, I'm pretty sure it was last year, it might have been the year before, but I'm pretty sure it was last year. We did post, like on the social media, on the town's thing.
Yeah, that's what I meant,
Pump
yeah.
things out. They did post like that, the conditional program would be up and running effective as of.
Okay, so that you do.
So it's like a little like public information blurb, but it's not much. I don't know that there's that many people who are going shellfishing that are looking at.
Yeah, no, well, I just know,
Like it's-
it's something that's very rarely open. There's some avenue for the public to actually.
But yeah, I'm happy to push it out any way we can to promote it,
But after, close to February, we'll have a new website that ties in with the notification service that you can sign up for. So if you care, hope maybe.
Right, sign up for shellfish updates.
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
We can,
And then you'll automatically get them in your email. You'll get agendas to whatever
Yeah.
committee you're interested in tracking, all of that. So it's a new communication system.
Okay, that sounds good.
You can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, we should have that already on the.
Christina
Waterways
could do that on the WMAC page.
Yeah.
A link to the water, so,
That'd be good.
yeah.
Oh, that
That doesn't have to wait.
obstruction buoy,
Oh, right, yeah, you.
is that like officially on the record, or do I need to follow?
Yeah,
that
no,
up?
so we'll talk about it right now. So, off of Ward's Point there, right, the old broken down pier there. There was a antique float, obstruction float that had been there for, take a
It's not
guess.
there anymore, that's.
No, it's
Years.
gone. It's gone. It broke, yeah. I see you got fish bottom right where it was.
The fish spots right there.
That's where it went.
That's where it went, yeah.
Now, it broke off. We recovered it a couple of days later. It was completely destroyed and it went to its maker finally after however many decades it had been in the water. That is not something that we have ever serviced in Butch's collective memory, which is 27 years he's been doing this. So we suspect that it was a private aid. In other words, something that somebody had put in probably just so people wouldn't hit stuff. If there is some interest, on the town's part of making that a formal aid and adding it sort of to the roster of things that we tend and take care of, then I think we could probably make that happen. We can certainly obtain a new obstruction buoy and then get it out there. We'll go through the proper channels of getting it permitted and like all of our other aids. So if that's something that we think is relevant, I'm happy to work on that,
I think it is relevant to have that marked by something.
Something, right, it's marked on the chart, that there's a private aid there.
Right. And so private aid is one of those things, that's the government saying this isn't ours, right?
Right,
Even all of our local private aids, right, all of our aids navigation are private aids.
right.
But yeah, no, I'm happy to work on that a little bit and
I think it's prudent to have something there, yeah.
as of next Monday, a week from today, we're gonna start pulling out the balance of the rest of the aids. All of the permitted aids can't come out until November 15th by law. So we're gonna start taking out the 5 mile an hour buoys, no wake zone buoys, right? Those will all come out starting on Monday, the 13th-ish, weather permitting. And then by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll start pulling all the rest of the stuff out.
What happens to, what happens to the ground tackle with like this mark that's sort of, it's just down there?
Whatever,
Whatever was attached to it.
Is that like a hazard for?
It's an added obstruction to the obstructed area. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a hazard to any boaters or anything like that. Yeah, no, you wouldn't, you wouldn't be stopping
crap at the bottom over there.
It's actually, I don't know whether you're familiar, you know, when you go down Shorewood, when you're coming across South Ferry, you see that
Yeah.
broken down pier?
Yeah.
That's
Right
the
there.
pier. That's the buoy there. Yeah.
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 No, usually if there's something that breaks off,
There's a few
there's
rocks.
a reasonable possibility it could cause a problem, we try to go get it, right? Like we'll grapple around and retrieve something. That would be like grappling in a minefield, like we're not gonna.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like,
Yeah,
how
no,
would you
We're gonna add a
do
new
that
mooring
situation? Yeah.
offshore where that one is, like all of this area is now in trouble.
The next thing down there would be your grappling hook.
Yes, right.
And my fish box.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, we'll definitely look into that.
Thanks.
Kayak removal, stop this.
The end of this month, all the kayaks have to be
November 30th.
off, so anybody who's listening or pays attention, right, it expires November 30th. The permit expires November 30th, and the town code says they have to be removed by December 1st. So it's a pretty broad window there when people have to get their stuff out of there. Usually,
Couple of minutes.
usually we take a lap about a week prior, take all the permit numbers that are still there and send a courtesy email out to everybody, just reminding them. Then on the day of, invariably, there's a couple people who ask for a couple more days because it's a Wednesday and they're not coming out till Friday. Or generally speaking, by the Friday following the first, we impound whatever's left. It's not, I think last year it was like 7 boats island-wide, so it wasn't that much.
Much better than it used to be, that's for sure.
Anything else for Bo?
But
I will take the opportunity, briefing by acting chairman. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One was in light of the town board's decision on that Prager application, and probably more importantly, in light of some of the comments that were made by town board members and the reasons for that decision, I really think it would be reasonable to once again request a moratorium on accepting dock applications and granting permits. This committee was unanimous in its opinion that shoreline at Shell Beach was inappropriate for a dock. And I think the town board would have been, a majority would have been rejecting that application if it hadn't been for the threat of a lawsuit, because I think they understand the situation along there as well. So, changing this code is going to take a while. And in the interim, we are just vulnerable to getting more applications in areas that we really might feel strongly shouldn't have a dock. So I think it would be prudent to avoid having to make other bad decisions to implement a moratorium for at least 3, if not 6 months, until we can get the code in shape. So I want to put that out there.
That's for all docks you're talking about?
I think that's the only way you can do it. I don't know how you.
Repair in kind, I would think, right? Repair in kind, would you have a problem with that or not?
No, I don't think the repair in kind would be.
As long as it met code.
Yeah, and they have to, the way the code's written now, you in place and in kind, as long as it's conforming or reduces a non-conformity, then it's okay. Does anyone have any thoughts on that or opinion?
We have 7 work sessions and 3 town board meetings, just to let you know, it's not a lot. And there's noticing, Yeah, and Suffolk County Planning has to weigh in. I think on all moratoriums, but I'm not sure. So just giving you, I mean, by all means, make the recommendation if that's what you choose to do. I just wanted to give you some logistics.
I mean,
As far as
you could
time-
almost, you could actually create more of a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Why?
Because then it's out there, but we won't have the time to act on it. And it's
So if people think there's a moratorium coming, then anybody
Yeah, you're gonna.
want a dock.
No, yeah, but that point was made last time, and as Jack Costello pointed out, it's the same problem on the application process. You just don't drop an application in and get it back. It's got to go through Army Corps of Engineers, then it gets submitted to DEC, then it comes to us. So there's a real lag in both, and it might be a horse race as to what happens first, but I think we can avoid some problems if we at least put that on the shelf and let people know what we're thinking about. I don't think it's like, you can't buy a gun after tomorrow, so everyone runs out and buys a gun today. It just doesn't, it's not the same issue.
BJ, could you talk a little bit about that sort of like the timing? You mentioned like the different meetings and stuff like that. So what would that involve? You mentioned like also
Well,
sort
it
of
has to
the
be
county
like
coming in.
the work session agenda, like that's always the first step. How you make your arguments and these. And I just want to get back to the calendar here. And so this work session certainly not. So that's the 14th. And we don't have any meetings at all the following week, Thanksgiving week. And then town board meeting. Which at that town board meeting, could we set a public hearing?
Theoretically, first we need to set it to the Suffolk County
Planning
planners,
board, yeah.
which
It has to be.
they
written
meet, they met last
up. They meet monthly.
but
No,
when was the last meeting that we
we
attended?
just had it last Wednesday.
Yeah, so it's first Wednesday of the month,
Yeah.
so first Wednesday of December, they presumably, I would have to check, meet that they could look at this, but we would have to have something already drafted.
And that's the other thing, which is it needs to have firm rationale. Not that I'm saying we don't, but I mean, you need to write that up.
Yeah,
Stephen Kylie would do that. But these are all just steps. It's just
Right, no,
not.
I'm seeking to understand it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
It's helpful to
discouraging you,
know that.
because if maybe we take one or two of those baby steps now, maybe you can, maybe it would be in place then in mid-January with the new administration. Although tomorrow would be much clearer.
But that's the time frame. Like if we started today and
Yeah.
worked towards it, you're thinking mid-January is when something could actually.
Yeah, but I'm not in charge then. I'm not even in charge now. Thank God. But yeah, so, and then.
That,
It looks
that's,
like-
Not they would agree with. Those are.
that's the time frame to receive results
Yeah.
on the request right now. If you
Right,
did
if you're all
start it.
unanimous, I think go forward. You got,
It looked like Mark was trying to say something. I don't know whether that's.
Mark, you got a comment?
Yes, I do. One sec.
Okay.
I agree with your idea. I think in the 10 years I've been on the committee, between the variances and the hardship letters that we've accepted, there are so many different flavors of non-conforming things that we've approved. I mean, one of the biggest what was it? The dock at St. Gabe's, we allowed to be 300 feet out into the harbor or something like that, in exchange for something else. And anybody coming in with anything, if they wanted to comb through the approvals, could find almost anything they wanted and claim precedent. And until we get a code which we're happy with and go forward with, I think the committee and the town is very vulnerable to any number of lawsuits from any people.
that's the one thing I should say, although Bill, you could correct me if I'm wrong about this. When you've been in the habit of variances, generously giving variances, the moratorium helps you break. It helps you say, from this point forward, you've changed the law. the rules have changed. It gives you that,
Makes a
am I
line.
right about this?
Well, that's the point.
Yeah,
That's,
but I mean, it's a strong point to make, I think, in terms of what the recommendation to the town board.
puts everyone on notice. And it's actually more fair, I think, to everyone. I mean, it's, you would hope that it would be clear to people looking at property next to where, along Silver Beach shoreline. I mean, part of buying a piece of property is doing some due diligence and realizing what you can and can't do with that piece of property, and using some common sense. So this would just be another indication to people of what may or may not be available. And, you know, whether a real estate agent tells you it's a good spot in a dock or whatever, you might have more reason to question that.
The other thing is the timing of the year. There probably would be no better time than December, January, February to get this done, because once you get to March, April, and May, you're gonna get more and more applications, you know, as spring starts to come and summer comes around. So if you're going to do something like this, timing is everything. You know, that I don't think there's a lot of pressure at this time of the year to be able to, you know, for that 3-month period, you know, like a December, January, February time, if that's, or March, pardon. But I think as you start getting into April, May, June, it just, seems to me every year, a number of applicants goes up and people are out, the waters, you know, starting to get this, to get involved in this stuff, so.
I honestly like the idea of a moratorium simply because, as VJ said, draws the line there. You know, it's like, that's where we were, this is where we are, and there's a line. But also, I think it would give us a chance to look at our shoreline and designate, you know, maybe, you know, this is where it should be and this shouldn't be. You brought up there were X amount of docks that could be built on the island.
Right.
And maybe specifically look at those.
It was like 40 something?
400.
That map that Matt
400.
made.
400. John had, well, you know, back to the, if you change the, John has did you share that with these guys? Did you get points for whether or not a dock could be built on a certain site? You came up with a rubric.
Yeah, it was just a thought that came to me. Similar, like we have criteria for a commercial marina of certain items that need to be reviewed, that could also, thing could be structured similarly.
I think, yeah, well, that's the whole idea behind in the changing the code, is to go through and establish criteria that we should be looking at and determining, for example, and I'm talking about objective issues. There's plenty of, there's plenty of subjective issues as well, but just to start off with, you know, objective issues as far as exposure and depth and obstacles, as determining whether it makes sense to put a dock in a certain place, you know. I mean, that you can go to the other end of the extreme and come up with, you know, aesthetics, but that you get into very, you know, everybody's got a different opinion there. So, you know, and then in the middle of that is the environmental impact, which is controversial. It's not black and white. But certainly with the those objective points, we can go and examine, and I was going to get to this later on when I talked about Chapter 53's revisions, but you can certainly take this map that Matt has produced, and we can examine various sections of this coastline of the island and take a look and see what objective issues are there that would prevent or should tell us it doesn't make sense to put a dock. Put a dock anywhere from, you know, I forget the name of the point off Deering Harbor, all the way out to Real Point. You got to go out 300 feet and you're still standing as the water's about as deep as your knees. What?
Sungin Point?
Sungin Point,
Horse Point.
yeah. I mean, it's just that whole stretch is, doesn't make any sense, but someone's going to give us an application to put a dock in there eventually, if not tomorrow. So, so that's the point behind it, that we just need cover so we can get this work done and
You know, one of the important things that came up at the end of that meeting that we had with the 2 weeks ago, with the group here on the coastline, was the idea of the East End towns hiring and sharing a coastal marine expert to be able to look at the shorelines for a variety of reasons. Remember that, Alan, when it came up?
Right.
Something like if we pay a fifth of it, or so, we have a lot of coastline here, but you're talking about docks, you're talking about bulkheads, you're talking about other hardening of shoreline areas, where, how to do it, how best to do it, what works best. That would be a great resource to have, for so many reasons. Make your job a lot easier and make future town boards' jobs a lot easier in terms of coming up with subjective criteria, not like a rubric type of thing where you have a list of things where you're not just shooting from the hip here. The past is the past. The past is the past. Climate change wasn't discussed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. People didn't buy into it, but now you're forced to buy into it because the reality is here. And you're seeing the evidence of it. So now is the time to, yesterday was the time to start. But surely today, you can't keep putting it off, is the whole, it's gonna catch up with you.
So that's,
Yeah, I like these ideas. I think it's worth pursuing.
do we need a
So do we need a vote
to get
to push
get
that?
you to?
One of the members should come to the town board work session to speak about it and introduce it.
Yeah, I like that idea.
When is the
14 or 20,
14th?
it depends.
Next
A week from tomorrow.
Tuesday. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing on the 14th, but
The one after.
I mean, how do we all feel about it, I guess, is really.
I'm in favor of some sort of line in the sand, so to speak, so that we can move forward from what was done in the past. I think that that's a great idea because that would obviously give us the chance to actually work on this. We keep having to cover applications during these meetings. We're never gonna get to that map or, anything else.
I mean, this year was I'd say was an odd year in terms of new applications.
Was it?
We had six.
We
had 6 applications.
Things that were never.
And we had the 2 most contentious applications in 17 years.
every expectation it's going to continue to get, it's going to be like that.
Well,
Why would you think that's going to change? Considering the amount of, the pressure on development, the amount of properties changing hands and new owners coming in here, it's phenomenal. And to think that that might slow down is.
No, it's gonna accelerate. No, I would agree with that.
I think
we allowed Saipan to get a dock, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are multiple people along that shoreline have looked at that and are preparing applications.
they're already, I recommend
They are.
that already. I mean, well, I speaking for myself, I'm not 100% reconciled to what the limitations on people's properties are, but I think I'm sort of in agreement that, having a time of reflection, call it a moratorium, is not a bad thing. I mean, I think we need a breathing space to really get these objective criteria in place and see how in practice they could work. So I think I would be in favor of not an open-ended thing, but it would be incumbent on us to move.
Right. We're also seeing the purpose of the dock starting to change. You thought of the dock as a place you put a boat. No, that's not what I want it for. I want a place that I can fish off. I want a place that I can sit out on a chair and look out at the scenery. And, you're getting
Well,
a different.
that's
I had
been
an
around,
argument with
that's,
my wife about this.
That's-
About
That may be people's expectations, and it may be what Prager's expert erroneously stated as a good reason to have a dock, but under New York State law, that is not what a dock is for.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's part of the argument. It's part of the argument
I mean,
because that's changing. That argument has been changing.
That's something that has to be well-defined in this
I mean,
process.
we're stewards
That's one
of the
things.
town's underwater lands, I mean, how do you see them being used? And yeah, will some people's desires be squelched a bit? Maybe, I mean, if you had your desire of sitting at the end of the dock and looking at the stars, I suppose that could be.
Yeah, that's about the most fatuous part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, your view of something light years away is not changed by sitting on your property or being 100 feet out in.
100%.
It's outrageous. It's like,
I think, James, your point about having some sort of objective standards and making a fair process for how we're gonna, adjust the rules or keep them. But, for how we're, managing that interaction between private owners on, on their land, and then the town bottom.
I mean, we
beyond the
still
shore. I
may
think
be
that's
challenged, obviously, no matter what we do with the code.
It's always gonna be.
absolutely.
That's not gonna make everything go away.
But, it's, so individuals want to have all the rights, want to do with their property, whatever they want to do. And they could in the wilderness before there were zoning codes or anything else. And people accept the fact that they can't build a hotel next to Al's house. This is just part of what happens when you have higher density and you have to place greater controls on your property.
Well, there's something to be considered here. Everybody keeps saying, oh, their property, their property, their property.
Exactly.
In fact, it's town property. It's public land you're building a dock on. So for that, if you're gonna make that statement, like, you're building a dock, you're traversing public land, in that sense, it's underwater land. At the same time, you wouldn't allow somebody to put a driveway in on town parkland. So there's, that's to be considered. It's not your property as soon as you leave.
And that's the main reason to consider it.
Yeah, this is, that's.
I think to close this up, if you get a spokesperson, if you agree on November 14th, is that too early, too late? Can you get together? You want a subcommittee to meet before to get your notes together? Or do you just, if you're gonna talk, Bill, you want other people to feed you information prior to such a date so you can gather your thoughts, make a presentation, just somehow you organize it so everybody has their input into this.
I don't know how much detail, I had provided a lot of detail or points, at least,
I was gonna say.
in my original presentation as to why I felt the moratorium was necessary. I don't know what more we would need to add to it other than that. It's, and I'd be happy to go up and make those same points. It seems that's, what this group has got in mind.
If I was in your chair, 5 other people here, 5 other people other than yourself, you send that out to everybody. Select for me the 4 or 5 top, and you might get some consensus on, really the strong parts of your argument are based on the following. Here are 15 reasons why, but the committee came across with designating, it just kind of, now you're speaking for the entire group based on everybody's input, so to speak, or?
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. No, yeah, because he was speaking, did that presentation, I believe, on his own with a little bit of input.
So it gives everybody a chance to weigh in on that stuff, yeah, and you got a few days.
Would we need to then weigh in for it to be like a recommendation of the committee then? Do we need to, or is it just something where, because I thought that was a great presentation.
I did
I thought,
too.
if you were to draw from that, then, I think that deputize Bill.
I'll send it out to every member, and if you've got specific feedback, then give feedback.
Yeah.
The Suffolk County Planning Commission did ask, meeting last week, how does a moratorium tie in with the comp plan? Not necessarily for ours, but for others.
It's one of my points was that it is timely, given the fact that.
And it's in
where
there.
we-
It's
Where
in
we
the
are.
comp. A recommendation.
Oh, it is, okay.
If you want me to email you the page, I can. Attachment, or do you want the whole chapter? No, anyway,
That's
it's in there.
great.
Consider 8.2G, consider policy for establishment of new docks. Actually, we changed that one, but okay. where docks can build, and new environmental regulations, aesthetics, view sheds, navigability of watersheds, and limits on the size of boats allowed to dock on private and commercial docks. Establish an accurate database.
Timely, very timely.
So do we like need a motion to deputize Bill to? Is that something that's appropriate or not, or doesn't matter?
He's your acting chairman, so you get somebody's choices.
There you go. Perfect.
That could change tomorrow. When's the town board meeting?
That's right.
No, we're not, you know, we'll talk about it, but in executive session, but, you know, continue though, this is an important point.
John, you were raising your hand?
Yeah, while you're on this subject, you missed the correspondence. I sent an email out to everybody on the 3rd regarding disposal for a dock that's gonna come up.
Sorry, John. I did see that, and I thinking you were, chairman, I didn't even think I needed to bring it up. No, thank you.
There is an application before the Army Corps for a dock to go up along the shore by Sapan,
Right.
James was
since
just.
you're on the subject of what's coming down the road.
By where?
Up off of Bluff Avenue.
North Ferry to the, just to the side of that.
Oh, off of down by.
At present, I mean,
Down that beach.
the difference between this and Sapan's is that Sapan had a stairway of some sort. This place has no access at all to get to the beach.
I already got a call from Tim Pertel, and so the only access down there has been his staircase, and there's no access to that property. So it's going to be that's an interesting application when it comes in, which hopefully we can put off, unless you'd be okay with it anyway.
Good example of what's coming down the road.
Yes,
Stuff
yeah.
that doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But nevertheless.
Another reason to
Yeah.
take a pause.
I think one thing we're gonna start seeing is like a lot of the places where it makes absolute sense to have a dock already built.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of like into that other sort of set of things where it hasn't been built before, and maybe there was a reason, maybe there wasn't, maybe there, it just happened, but yeah, the prime spots are filled, and now we're.
Data is correct, there are 400 possible, areas, that's gonna test the group going forward, it really is. I think you need to tighten the script,
Well, of course, where some of those docks
be
were
one
built,
step ahead.
some of those docks were built, there was no code to stop them from being as big as they needed to be to make them viable,
Right, yeah.
you know?
The second point is the WMAC fund. So a number of issues have caused me to wonder what ever happened to that fund. And most recently, I just read in the Reporter that Amber stated that, she needed to see what spending can come out of the fees paid to the WMAC, which sort of looks like,
I saw that.
okay. So I would also very much like to know what, fees can come out of the WMAC fund and where the money's going and what money's been coming into the, what?
Shelby would be your direct contact, Shelby Mundy. She's the account person.
So if I make a request of her for an accounting of the last, say, 2 years of all revenues in and all expenditures out,
I think she can do that.
I think you can do it.
But we kind of have an idea based on the whole hoopla over the raising of the mooring fees. What
I'd be
they were
interested
doing
to
with
see
money.
that.
well, I mean, it's very clear what the uses can be for the money. It's code section 90-2 and 90-5K,
90-2 and what?
90-5K.
No,
And-
what's happened is it's more of a tax than a user fee because they're using it to pay for general stuff.
Yeah, the whole concept was that it's a user fee. So the only people who should be paying for this are the users. And then, to some extent, I can go along with that. Except when you compare it to how the school tax works, but but the problem is if that money is coming in to the WMAC fund and being used for general purposes, then that's a real problem, because not only does it go against what the code says it can be used for, but
It's illegal.
Report back to Bill.
Lots of letters about this and never got an answer.
Right,
They'll be-
yeah.
So,
People in East Hampton went to jail. For spending.
what's her first name?
Listen,
Shelby?
yeah, Shelby Buddy.
Oh, that's, Lance's daughter, right? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's enough for me. And then, so, new business, we have one application, one new application.
Two.
Two.
Well, one's
One's old business.
So, back there.
Isn't it? Where is that? Yeah, new
business.
new business. Oh, they both say new.
Because it's new. Wait,
Second one is no.
Business.
Screw me
Second
up.
one's done?
Second one is, it should be all business.
Oh, business, right, okay. Old business.
But it's a
old new business.
You didn't catch that, Bill?
I didn't catch that.
No.
You want to do Bill?
John would have
Let's do the old business first real quick.
Total, okay, so, let's see. So we have a new plan. The dock was moved 6 feet to the west. We're doing Carroll, right?
Yes.
58 total
Yeah.
drive. We asked them to move it 6 feet over. They did. We have 25-foot setback on either side, which is the minimum required by the code. I didn't see any of the other issues except that I don't see access stairs on the new plan. And maybe it's designed, I was hoping Jack would be here.
There may not be accessible shoreline.
Shoreline there, yeah.
I don't think there is. I think that's a old stone wall that's similar to
It looks to me like so now that they're dropping the dock on the concrete slab that's there, that maybe the concrete slab itself
It doesn't,
acts as a
it
step.
doesn't need a step, yeah, I mean.
You don't need,
Yeah, I
you don't
think
need.
that, it lands at that platform, and that platform runs along the top of the stone. The raising the platform itself, I thought it was an existing.
Yeah, it's elevated existing stone patio, 16-inch.
Oh, an 8-inch step on each side,
Yeah, so that,
That's why I think that's.
pretty much covers it.
right.
That's the difference, like, we would have just pushed this onto the town board, because they did what you asked them to do. Why have to do it again, but this is a change now.
It does say here it says there's an 8-inch step on each side, so.
Just wasn't clear to me how, because on the plan, when you look at the plan, it just wasn't clear. That's why I said I wish Jack was here, but,
Jack said he had a conflict, and if there was any major thing that he had to pick a call. But yeah,
Oh, with an 8-inch step on each side, I assume that 8-inch step is to
get it.
access.
to cut the 16-inch raised, yeah, so you got 8 inch.
Yeah.
I think that looks,
And he's showing, and maybe
Yeah,
it's step on each side.
Yeah.
all right. James,
Good.
Matt,
I agree.
Tom?
I'm good, I'm glad that he.
Yeah, I think that worked out nice.
Yep,
It's, Al,
I'm good.
I'm good, so it's 5-0.
6-0.
Oh, gee, that was sorry.
One more.
You didn't make any noise while I made you laugh. Sorry.
And go back to new business list.
Yep. So we've got Bliss, Mooring, this is, oh, good.
Banana Creek.
Station, private mooring.
That's Banana Creek then?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's Mananic.
Yeah, yes.
Is that the yellow marker?
It's really
The yellow pin?
the yellow pin, yeah.
That's the coordinates.
And what's the access, is that the access for people right right there.
This is, yes, that's a town landing there, yeah.
So we can keep a dinghy parked there and so.
Is this,
How close is that dock?
property owner there, or is that?
No, it's not a riparian, it's a
It's not
private. I don't-
riparian, it's a private.
His, doesn't have a street address here.
He has 62 Baldwin,
He's got 32 balls.
or 32.
Yeah, 32 balls. Oh, okay, so it's not a.
It's not a
Would
property owner
that,
there.
not that I'm ever in favor of riparian right moorings, but would that interfere with the future or already existing riparian right spot?
Looks like it's pretty close to the dock.
That's what I'm saying,
It was
yeah.
very close to that.
Yeah, it's right on the dock.
And if someone from, say, the center of town, wouldn't it be more appropriate to put them in a mooring grid, so to speak, versus in front of someone's house?
I'm not sure why he wants to, what's he got?
That's what I don't understand, why it's in front of that docking property.
He's got
I would think
a,
if it was a riparian right, that's where the riparian right mooring would go, but not that I'm in favor of them, but at the same time,
he's got a 19-foot,
I think it should go in some sort of a grid or, pre-established mooring area that's,
Come down, maybe down in the bay.
yeah, I don't know, I don't think
Like
there's an
that.
established grid, so to speak, inside
No, there's-
Danic, but,
On that, a little road that goes down from Midway, what's that?
the hill?
Yeah, that's the name of that road.
House, yeah.
Hager?
No,
No.
it's called, that road.
It's the hill.
It's a silly name.
Yeah, I don't know what the hill name is. I know that McLean's used to live next door there. That's,
Maybe off of there.
So
Yeah, the application that later states that it's takeover, should be takeover for this.
oh, was it?
it says, yeah, it just says desired location, Monantic Creek number W1749, which is the one.
There. So the pin's in the wrong spot, maybe. That makes more sense.
Oh,
that would be a reasonable location. I mean,
he wants to stick it out that, off the end of that landing there.
it says available.
Yeah, there's.
What's the mooring that's showing up on land? What's 36?
Take more and pull here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, must be.
It's difficult to read this, the photocopy, but they do have the yellow pen. It's right on the same location as the previous one.
Yeah, I had the 2-digit swap there instead of.
Okay, so the pin's now where it,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
That does make a little more sense, yeah.
Yep. I mean, if for some reason somebody wants to be up inside the creek,
So it was never a homeowner who had that, it was just,
That was off the dead end, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, okay, then that makes totally more sense, yeah.
so what are those 610565? So that long looks correct. Why was it up off the
Oh,
dock?
because I had the last 2 digits, 57 and 75.
Oh, okay, so there's a little dyslexia on your part.
And it's an outboard, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it must be, yeah.
It's small, yeah.
19 feet?
Right?
makes sense.
Yeah. James, you're good?
Yeah.
Matt?
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that, yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. Mark?
Good, very good.
There you go, 6-0. Let's see. 6-0. And, okay, so other businesses approving the calendar, so this is, now we're doing Tuesday?
Second Monday.
Second Monday.
It's always, yeah.
And that starts January, the second Monday in January?
I guess I would have figured that out when I looked at the calendar, tried to.
January 8th.
And
This is a
I think it was
holiday
Al
in
was
there.
talking about trying to do 5, right?
5 PM, so
You can see 5 through,
5 p.m.
Is that
Five
going
o'clock, 5 PM,
Does
yes.
that work for
Yeah.
all those Mondays at 5 PM? Is there any conflict?
5 o'clock should.
So say February, March, and
April,
maybe April?
if the time changes in March again.
I think if you go January, February, March, you're in good shape.
Yeah, I think we go January, February, March.
5 PM, and then April it reverts back.
If the calendar allow that flexibility to change again in 3 to 4 months, it does, so, okay.
Tom, you're on this committee, and we
What
have a
about
lot of
November,
power.
December?
We shouldn't have done that.
Then in September, there's the overlap with CAC, that's why the 5, or some, yeah, CAC, I think it was. And then what about November, December?
5 PM,
5?
I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
all right. That's, everyone's good with that?
October 21 is 5 PM or is that 6?
6 PM.
6 PM.
It's gonna go back to, okay.
So it goes 5, 6, 5.
Time will have changed in
Just
November.
to keep everybody on their toes. Oh,
We've all missed a meeting 1 or 2 times or come in like halfway through because of this.
Yeah, it's good that you do it beforehand.
so chapter 53, revisions. So as of the last meeting, Matt and I had already done some redrafting online of this, and that seems to be working pretty good. It's a nice system. So I suggest we continue operating that way, and then ultimately we'll get, a draft that we can deliver to everyone to
Is that how you
review.
want the input then on this chapter then?
Well, it'll get, the system we're using has great ability to put in notes, comments, everything else, but already just between the two of us, there's a lot of conversation.
System you're using, oh, okay.
Yeah, but if anybody else, any other member has any specific draft notes or items or anything, I would email them to the two of us.
Email them out, okay.
Earlier is better, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Perfect time of year to do this, by the way, again, you can say what
It is.
the schedule for this committee.
Quite a schedule, but it's, I got holidays coming up too, but whatever, we'll plow through. I mean, clearly, the shoreline review is something has to be addressed before.
We have to actually just
We have to move on.
go and say do it from here to here and from there to there. And
Yeah, but I think probably I was thinking of, like we did with
town landings,
town landings, but I think it's probably best if just each individual,
just weigh in about what you think, about a certain area and why.
Should we schedule a time frame to cover, say, point A to point B?
I think we should start on that. I would start on the outside, what we call outside waters, but the outside shoreline in the process will define where outside becomes inside. But I would focus on that, and I found it helpful to look at the map that Matt had done because it establishes the waterfront properties that don't have docks. So outside waters, the areas that don't already have docks, I think would be the first places we want to start to look.
Could you send that out again?
Yeah, I
can't
was gonna
find
ask
it.
you
I
to
can't
send
find
it.
I'll send it again.
I thought it was excellent work, but I had.
I'll also probably, I'll break it up so it could be larger. So like, subsetting the areas.
Okay.
So then it'd be
Yeah.
easier to make notes and stuff like that on it.
Some of the sections were not color coded. They were just no colors there. I don't know why that would be. There was a stretch, I'm trying to think of where it was, but
Some of them, what I tried to do was to use first round was me thinking about it and okay, I think this is a private and I think this is commercial. I did get more data about, sort of the lots and whether they're commercial or not, so I can try to, incorporate that. Some of the areas where there might not be showing a color, it might be just really narrow, because for instance, along Crescent Beach, there's tiny strips.
I think
the color might actually not show.
okay. The areas.
But, if you ask, I could try to go figure out in any particular area where.
They did a blow up of a section would
Yeah,
would
yeah,
give
so-
that as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll sort of break it out and blow them up so then we can go in and I'm sure that there's, the way that I've done it is there are errors we can, be helpful to sort of, also edit that and,
In the drafting part at this point, those sections that deal with design of, dock design, I'm just sort of,
That's what I was looking at.
I'm just sort of skipping over that until we get this part
Yeah, I think
done.
it's more important to do the
I
shoreline
mean,
access.
this is what the,
Shoreline.
why the more important is.
Yeah, I mean, this is the toughest part, but there's all that other cleanup. I mean, it's unbelievable how much other cleanup there is to do, and this is all sorts of contradictions and so forth that, and then a lot of things that need to be added. Talking about boat lifts and splashboards and chalking and a lot of things. So it's going to be, it's just going to be a process. Another reason for this whole moratorium concept, because this thing isn't going to happen in 2 or 3 months. It's going to take, I would hope, no more than 6 months. I'd love to get it done much sooner, but it's a process.
there's also what we do and then what the town board obviously.
Yeah, right.
This
is
have some.
right. It's what we do, then it's what we all do, and then
Right,
there's-
and I think.
Tomorrow, maybe we'll know better.
You're gonna need somebody that has some coastal management skills as part of this.
Yeah.
Because for five guys,
What you said.
to say, to look along a shoreline and say, you can't do, it's,
Yeah, but
when you're putting yourselves in a position of a potential lawsuit. Why not, you pay a few bucks and you get it out of our hands.
Well, once we find
What's
out how
that?
much money's in our waterways fund, we can figure out how much we expect.
She's very good, she'll get right back to you, I'm sure she'll, where the budget's pretty much.
It needs to be part of it. It needs to be a piece.
Yeah.
But that's why I said to focus on objective. Who's going to argue that, it's 3 foot deep here? We're going to bring in an expert to tell us it's 4 foot deep? I mean, there's an obstruction here, there's a huge boulder here. We don't need an expert to tell us about objective, and that's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying at some part,
Well, when we get into aesthetics and other aspects
I
of
mean,
this.
maybe sometimes when a person like that is useful, but I mean, you're saying that where it's sort of cut and dried, where the guy's gonna be useful is when the lawsuits start.
Well, so first pass is what I'm suggesting is the first pass is the objective part.
Right.
You've got a scale of objective to totally subjective. All right, the subjective part is, we're probably not going to deal with. The environmental part, which is controversial, is where you might want an expert. Even though some of these experts, I learned recently from an expert that we're never going to have snow and ice again and out here, it's not going to damage any of our docks. Maybe we'll get that guy to come back. But, so, yeah, finding an expert is not the easiest thing in the world either, but.
Joe Venora, the good thing about Joe does have a pretty extensive background when it comes to marine stuff. So Joe's somebody that, you have an internal resource right here that you could use.
Good to know.
Also, the parts of the code talking about the different town docks and Condon's Creek and stuff like that. I'm reading through it. It seemed very confusing to me, like what they were trying to accomplish. And so anybody who's got real experience with that and what it's trying to achieve and what's the situation happening now, that'd be really helpful to sort of like take a close look at that and be like, it's working, it's not working. Because to me, I was trying to
I
understand it.
got
I
a
was like, I didn't
couple of
really get it.
things, notes here that I'd love to pass forward to where it's not working, where it could be better. I've had an idea in the back of my head about moving the dinghy dock at Deering Harbor Town Dock. Just the suggestions that aren't necessarily go to this code, but just better utilization of
Town
resources.
Yeah.
I have a couple of suggestions there that maybe not in 53 here, but other aspects of it, utilization of current things that should be maybe modified, those are suggestions I will make.
Have you looked here to see if it's covered in this code or not?
Some of this stuff, a lot of this stuff is actually modification of what's already there.
Okay.
Both size or, stuff like that.
It's just interesting because every time I've read this code 50 times and every time I read it, I'm like, wow.
Right.
I mean, there's a section we've never ever discussed, and it might have to do with town docks and so forth. But anyway, that's, so much for chapter 53 revisions. The last item, Jack's Marine Moorings. I added it because I had gotten a notice from someone that Jack's Marine is basically, it was too vague for me to understand. BJ?
Well, I think what it was they were getting out of the mooring business, I'm not sure, it's unclear to me whether they are maintaining their own moorings.
That's the point.
Or they're keeping their own moorings, I know that, but, none of the agents in the store knew the answer. Who's taking care of this?
BJ, you said you didn't get any answers from anybody?
I did, I went down and then I didn't follow up. Let me apologize for that, and then let me make sure I get on it and get you an email.
So the issue is that they sent out a letter to their customers saying that they were no longer going to maintain moorings and they should find someone else. They're recommending Burt Waif. It didn't say whether that's strictly their customers' personal moorings or it included the commercial moorings that they have, or whether they knew there was even a process to transfer commercial moorings, or if they're even talking about that.
No, what I gleaned from this whole thing, which is very convoluted and misworded, was that they were just, the people who, other than the 47 or 50 moorings that they have, they didn't want to deal with the moorings. They were gonna just turn it over to Bert or Paul or whoever. And it was unclear to me about who was taking care of their moorings. I said, well, you have the barge there. Oh, well, something wrong with that. I said, well, fix it. Come on.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we used to get a list occasionally of all the moorings and how many were commercial, how many were
We did it just recently. We got it last year.
I was looking
Beginning of this year, maybe.
I was looking through, I couldn't find one more in my file more recent than 2020.
Bo can generate that.
No, we got it this year.
Okay.
You can shoot a thing off the bow. I agree with Big. I think he could give it to you.
I didn't, yeah, okay.
But I think, from this standpoint, it's not really our purview to say who's servicing them. They're right now they're permitted. For some reason, they're trying to transfer them to somebody or do whatever they're trying to do. I don't even think the people that are in that store knew what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But my gut is that they're keeping those moorings, and someone, whether they or someone else, is going to service them.
Does anybody know what the number of moorings were actually? I guess it would be Jack's Marine, is that?
That's what I was looking.
47.
47?
47 of them?
Those are the
And-
commercial moorings?
They're currently under Jack's Marine.
Well, they're
Angler?
under whoever the corporate ownership is of Jack's Marine, I would guess.
Okay, so
I don't know what the
those
permit
moorings
says.
are under a corporate name.
I don't know, I'm not sure what the permit says. But they were
I'm just wondering if
transferred.
residency comes into play with the transfer of these moorings. I know that it has in the past with commercial moorings.
We started on a residence.
I know it's. But have they been transferred
Don't
since?
say the D word.
The moorings have been transferred and these are newly permitted, I should say.
These are newly permitted moorings
Okay.
to Jack's Marine or whoever that is.
Okay.
The other thing I was gonna suggest is Bo may not only be able to generate that information, he seems to be up on a lot of this gossip on the water, so he might be able to Give you a lot of guts. I mean, if there's a person on the island that knows what's going on here, Bo would be the man. I know he's on vacation, but
I mean, the thing, the letter that they sent out was very, and, just, it made the people who didn't, the same kind of people who didn't know, that they have a well to get water, they knew their mooring showed up there every year and went away. But beyond that, they weren't sure how it happened.
My understanding was pretty alarming.
yeah.
Well, I mean, what the wording was, they were gonna drop the mooring off at their house.
Right.
That's what this sounded like.
That's exactly what.
I said, whoever wrote this needed to take some more English classes.
It just looks like now there's nobody involved that knows what's going on. Whereas before you had Mike. And now it seems like there's
It seems
nobody
like there's
knows
a
either
big
side.
gap, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But other than the Jack's 47 moorings, they're only concerned with those 47. The rest of them are
The
just
rest of them,
customers.
they're not concerned about.
That's what it is, yeah.
They wash their hands of it.
Yeah, they wash their hands of it, yeah.
So, I mean, Paul Brewer has that.
They're just gonna get gobbled up by whoever gobbles them up.
And I don't know, he's got some and Bert's got some. And
I mean, that's,
I would hope that this doesn't lead to a gap in maintenance on certain moorings because
No, I think,
they weren't, you know what I mean?
from what I'm seeing, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I mean, because every year we see X amount of moorings get washed up on the beach after a storm because they weren't
It
maintained.
might result in people, less moorings.
Well, that's what I would think.
I mean, I'm not because of attrition like that, just because people, gee, I don't think deal with it, and not even continue with having a mooring.
Give up their mooring?
I think the
Because I
more-
don't think, there's some people who don't use their mooring.
The bigger concern would be with the
Now it's like,
maintaining of that mooring costs. That's the bigger concern. I just had a dredge put back together from last year from a mooring that was just sitting on the bottom with no buoy on it that I found. It wrecked a dredge, had to go reload.
Did you pull a mushroom up and sell it?
No, I know where it is though. I know where there's about 4 or 5 of them. Let's take them.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and those are the ones I know about. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So there's, it's definitely over the decades, there's gear on the bottom. There's definitely gear.
When
on the bottom.
I was doing the moorings in Deering Harbor, I would
Could that be a use for the
consistently
WMAC money?
find moorings and sell
Like,
them.
like that fund,
Clean that up?
cleaning up some of these abandoned.
Be nice.
And my bottle collection got.
I don't know, you have to find them.
Yeah, you gotta
No,
find it.
You've mapped it, haven't you?
Well, the thing is, once you find them, usually what happens is like, they're usually found by scallopers and the guy will go back and he'll take the mooring and.
yeah, right.
There you go, so it works.
There you go.
It's already
That
taken care of.
usually is what.
It's the free market.
Yeah. But if there was some avenue to notify somebody that, okay, there's these different hangs here that are
So
most
notify
likely
Peter, and
moorings,
he will put it out.
maybe there's an avenue for the town to remove
It'll be a race.
these.
Oh.
I don't know whether that's a possibility, but it would definitely be in the best interest to remove them if they can be located, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be more than
Yeah,
happy to
anything
put a
like that.
buoy on stuff when I find it, and if the town bay constable or the town highway department can get the things up and out of the bottom, so they're no longer a hazard for scholars.
Sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah, I realize that.
Popping a mushroom that's buried down there.
The chain's broken down low, I mean, you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the future, I would suggest that with topics like this, when Bo's present in the room, because he's not gonna stay for a 2-hour meeting,
Yeah.
put some of those topics in there while he's still present here. To get some feedback from him, if you wanted to do some of this.
I don't know whether it's a possibility even, but he would know
Oh, yeah.
whether it is possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's become the mooring guy, so whatever problems you have,
You just have.
call him at home on his vacation and
That's it,
then.
bother the crap out. That's it.
Jeez, poor guy. That's everything on the agenda. Anyone got anything else?
No, other than the fact that, what are we doing with my brother John here? Are we doing something tonight? Are we doing something in December?
John told me he's not interested in hanging out with any of us.
Sanj is coming back on the board as, not as an officer.
That's a very nice thought. I feel like I've expressed all the gratitude.
That you can handle.
I couldn't be more honored for the recognition. Thank you very much. And while I'm at it.
Well
I'd just like
deserved,
to
John.
say,
Well deserved.
I'm really impressed and really, impressed by how you guys are carrying on. And you've got 3 contentious docks behind you. The door is open now. I feel like my burnout would be holding me back. And I see you moving forward, and I think it's terrific.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
I think they might,
Lands on us, you get, take the same interest in this job. That's what I hope.
yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Yes, yes.
There you go.
Second.
All right.